Hey, it's James Chapman coming to you live from the beautiful Columbia River Gorge. It's so great to have you here tonight. I am excited to introduce our guest, Frank Curtin. I know you know a little bit about him. If you're tuning in here, you've read a little bit about what we are going to be covering tonight. But before I introduce Frank, there's a few housekeeping items I have here on my notes that I'd like to go through. First of all, before I begin, I want to just really cover who this is for, okay? And how it came about. So 123 Age Live is essentially we're bringing together business leaders.
Hey, it's James Chapman coming to you live from.
I got the delay going on here, so I didn't follow my own advice, turning off the broadcast here. So sorry about that. All right, so back to where was I here? Who is this for? Okay, so 123 Age Live came about as a result of working with entrepreneurs and business leaders and thought leaders across the country and really the world on their digital strategies. Now, I really serve three markets or three groups of leaders, and that is, first of all, the SMB or local business owner, small, medium business, and local business owners. And that's really where my roots are. I came out of that industry and worked with local business owners and small, medium-sized businesses, as well as Fortune 500, but really my heart is with the local business owner and the small, medium-sized business, because that is really the backbone and the engine of the U.S. economy. That really is what keeps things going. And so anytime I can lend my skills and services to help entrepreneurs and business owners to leverage some of these technologies that are out there and help them improve and grow, then that's really something that motivates me. So that's number one. Number two is the direct sales, direct sales kind of MLM network marketing industry, and I've had the privilege to get to know and work with some really strong leaders in the industry, and in fact the #1 earner in the industry as well. So when I say successful leaders, I mean anyone earning greater than $10,000 a month, and $20,000 up to $100,000 and on up from there. Now that's not typical of your normal results in that industry. It really takes the ability to take it seriously as a business, to execute very sound business principles to your business, and then to really grow your team and grow your business. And it takes the right company, the right team, a lot of pieces to that equation. But I have a lot of those people in my network of colleagues and friends, and we'll be bringing some of those folks on to this series to share some of their strategies and skills that they've had. We're not selling anything here or recruiting anybody. That's really not what this is about. This is really about providing skills, strategies, tools, and ideas to help you move your business forward. So the third kind of group of people are public speakers, coaches, authors, that kind of group of people. I also know and have had the honor and privilege to work with a lot of people in this area that are in the publishing industry, that have written books, that are performers, musicians, authors, really kind of public figures. So working with those folks too, we have something here for you as well. So those are really the three groups of leaders that this show is intended for. So if you fall into any of those categories, you're in the right place. You're going to get value here. So make sure you're on our list so you get notifications about our upcoming guests. We've got some really awesome guests lined up. So the next thing is the venue, where you are right now. Okay, so we're on a Facebook page, but this is a Google Hangout. So really what we've done is we've created a very innovative new strategy to take one piece of content that's a Google Hangout. It's a Google Plus Hangout on Air, HOA. And we're embedding that on a Facebook page, okay, where we get the viral stage and interaction and social signals and social interaction of Facebook, and then it's automatically saved and stored on YouTube, on your YouTube channel. So what you're getting is you're getting three powerful tools and technologies that all serve a little bit different purposes, but serve and enhance one another. You get the traffic from a Google Plus Hangout on Air, because these are highly found in search engines if they're optimized properly. Okay, and then you got the viral component of Facebook, where you've got the interaction and the comments and the shares. So that goes out and gets your message out to a broad spectrum of people. And then you get the YouTube channel, which has the replay value of additional views, exposures, and also search engine capability, because as we all know, YouTube, or we should know, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So that's really the strategy that we're using, we're teaching, and we're using. And there's one tool and piece of technology that puts all this together, and that's the 22 Social Marketing app. There's a free version, and it's a freemium model, so there's a $2 version for the first month, and then $22 a month. So that's what we're using. That's the page that you're on right now, is a 22 Social Marketing app that attaches to your Facebook fan page. Okay, so that's the venue, and that's what makes this all possible. All right, so let me make sure I have everything here. All right, there's 3 last things that I need you to do before I jump into our guest tonight. And that is, number 1, I need you to share this. If you haven't done so already, you'll see a button up here. Not this button right here, the share button on the screen, but just up to the left-hand corner on this page, you'll see a share button. Just click that button and share that so you can get this out to other people that might fall into one of those 3 categories that I went through. Okay, number 2, we've got the comment box. Okay, so the comment box is just below on the very bottom of this page. So drop us a comment, tell us where you're coming from, and if you've got any pressing business questions that you want to leave for Frank or myself. And then number 3 is that green button, right? So we've got the green button that is actually down below. We have 2 of them on this page, and one of them is the RSVP. So when you click that RSVP button, basically what that's going to do is it's going to notify you of our future events. So you'll have to agree to a Facebook handshake. It's a security requirement of Facebook, and then we connect with you, your Facebook profile, we connect with you, and then you are able to get notifications for our future events. The other button are the 2 worksheets that we're going to be going through tonight that you can take and apply to your business that Frank is going to take us through. All right, so with that, I think we've got everything out of the way. What I'm going to do now is we're going to get into our content. So with me tonight is Frank Curtin. Frank, aside from being just an awesome guy, he is an expert in workflow efficiency and has consulted with Fortune 500 companies as well as SMBs and local businesses as well. Any business with employees, essentially, that really need to improve their efficiencies and workflows. He has a tremendous amount of experience and a solid track record at turning a lot of these businesses around and making them more profitable, which is something that I think business owners really are looking to figure out how they can minimize the chaos and improve the efficiency and bring a lot more order and predictability into their operations. So that's what Frank is going to cover tonight. We have a few parting gifts at the end, so you'll want to stay till the very end. And then you'll definitely want those worksheets that are down below. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Frank Curtin. Frank, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, James. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. I'd give you the clap, but I missed it. So let's give Frank a big round of applause. And thanks for being here, Frank. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule and coming on here, because I know this is value after I saw kind of the things that you're doing, things that you're working with, that you have a lot of value to share tonight.
Well, I'm really excited, James, because I work with a lot of different companies, as you had said, you know, and in my days at IBM, I spent a lot of time with Fortune 500 companies, and we would put in these large, massive ERP systems, and these systems consisted of 100 million. The largest project I worked on was $250 million 4-year project with a large food retailer out of the Northeast. And what was amazing about that project was, over that 4-year time, the software that went into this thing was only about $10 million in licensing. The rest of it was all workflow processes, how to get people to do these things, and then the change management associated with it. When I left that world and started working with small and medium businesses on my own, I've worked with a lot of small businesses to do these product launches that you saw from 2008 to 2011. I was very active in that. And as part of all of that, my discovery was that the little guy didn't get the kind of help they needed and didn't have the types of tools available to them to make the same types of advances that these large companies could do. You know, they had big budgets, they could go spend $250 million. I suspect not too many of our listeners have $250 million laying around for technology, so, and workflows and processes. So with that said, I wanted to start sharing ways that companies, the little guy, can get that advantage and sort of get their workflows and efficiencies in a way where they can start eliminating some of the chaos. And like we said, James, early on, you'd asked me what are the 3 things that you'd like to do, like what are the 3 specific things. And one of them is, let's cover the wasted time areas. Where does the majority of time in any business owner's life exist, and where is the time wasted? Where does it go?
Yeah,
and so I thought maybe that might be a great place for us to start tonight, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right where we were going to jump in is, these 3 areas I think people are probably curious that are responsible for 98% of their lost time, energy, and effort. So, yeah, I do share because I know I can relate to some of these as well.
Well, great, okay. And while I'm doing that, if they haven't downloaded those forms yet, they'll want to do that because we'll cover that when we're done with this, okay? And we'll take them through an example.
Great, sounds awesome.
Perfect, excellent. All right, well, there's 3 areas where wasted time, and I can tell you far and away the number one that I have seen across most small businesses is customer service. And now, one of the challenges with customer service is you got people that are working your front line for you. These are the people who are engaging with your customers. And then you've got supervisor, manager, owner type people on the backside. And there's this huge chasm between the way the manager understands the practical side of the way the business runs and what the agent is hearing from the customer. Because the customer doesn't speak the language we speak. They don't speak about our products the way we speak about our products. The problems that they experience aren't articulated the way we understand our products to work. And so there's a lot of time lost in between the translation of getting people up to speed on this. And correct me if I'm wrong, James, but you worked for FedEx at one point, did you not?
Yeah. Hey, Frank. I'm getting some reports of some echo. So maybe I know we're not using headsets tonight. So if you could turn down the volume slightly on your speakers, that should take care of it. Yeah. So I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question because I was fielding these questions coming in.
Yes. And are you getting the feedback still?
Well, see, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it on my end, but we're getting reports that it's coming through. Hold on, let me just check out. Go ahead, Frank.
Okay. All right. So my question to you, James, was that you worked for FedEx at one point, and my understanding is that you worked in a high capacity in the customer service role, and I thought maybe you might be able to actually give an example of what exactly I just said about this chasm between the management, the practitioner, going into the agent, and then the agent and the customer, and why there's such a dichotomy there, and what you used to have to go through at FedEx, to give an example.
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot of memories from my past career at FedEx. Formerly Kinko's, I was with the Kinko's side of the operation there, and I managed stores and managed multiple locations. And at that time, a lot of times the biggest inefficiencies happened because of miscommunications between the team members serving the customers and the customers themselves. And a lot of that was due to, say, for example, the employee speaking internal terminology to the customer not really understanding, or using policy as a reason not to serve the customer and deliver a high level of customer service. So we dealt with a lot of headaches in that regard, and a lot of it was really boiled down to managing those team members to expectations and holding people accountable to a certain standard of quality and service.
Yeah, and so guys, what we're trying to, the point here, and what we're trying to get across is there is this large dichotomy between what the consumer is asking for in terms of the problem they're feeling, or even if it's a compliment for that matter. They don't speak the language of your business. They speak what they know, and that's customer language to you. And then the management is trying to get these agents to understand the responses that they're wanting to get. So when the agent asks the customer service, asks a supervisor or manager questions on how to respond to certain people, it doesn't always translate well over to the customer. So it's very important on the customer service side that we understand how to get an agent properly trained and documented with good answers that make sense to the customer, that it's in their language, in their world, so that you can minimize the time that you're spending with them, answer the questions much faster, and then the agents become more accustomed to it, and they they rely less and less on higher level personnel to help them out. And that again is a huge area for time waste.
Okay, so proper documentation and process communicated to the agent or the employee to make sure that they're communicating effectively with the customer. So that's one area of wasted time that now you have. This is kind of incorporated in one of your worksheets, right, where they can utilize the worksheet to help isolate that and fix it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, when I show the process that we're going to go through, including the tips and tricks on how to develop this out, it all begins to make sense, because that operational worksheet that we're going to go through an example of gives you an opportunity to look at what you do for that. How do you respond to things like that? What types of tools do you use? What procedures are available to you to respond to these various customer inquiries and stuff? And then how well documented are you in that respect, so that when things come in, you can start identifying patterns, because customers, they will ask the same question 30 different ways to Sunday. And they're asking the same thing, but your agents may not identify with that early on. And the less documentation there is in response to these sorts of things, the more problematic it can be when they have to keep going back and getting clarity on it. Customers asking it from this perspective. They go back to the supervisor. He's like, that's the same question as this one. Go answer it this way. So these sorts of things need to get well documented, and the better we get at that, I mean, some of the best customer service groups and programs out there that work are the ones that have a big fat FAQ list of ways to respond to these things, and that's built up over time. It starts with the first one, and it builds up over time.
So you're talking about really standard operating procedures, making sure you document processes and procedures, and are you finding a lot of businesses just haven't taken the time to do that?
Yeah, sadly, the little guy tends to not do that much at all. Usually it gets to the point where a person that enters into business, starting out by themselves, these are practitioners that have a skill at doing something really good, and now they're taking that leap and they're becoming a business owner. And part of that business ownership and that transition is where they're going to take the knowledge that's within them and they're going to start asking other people to do it. That's called employees or contractors that come in and help us out, right? So as we start to build out our businesses, we have to get out of our heads all the things that we know to do the way we want it done. And if we don't take the time to write it down, guess what happens every time somebody doesn't know what to do? They come to you.
I can relate to that for sure.
Absolutely.
Over. Yeah, so basically you're reducing redundancies. If everybody is trained according to the same system and process that you've defined somewhere in a document and they've been trained on that, then that eliminates all that extra wasted time. Okay, so
right, it does.
What's number two? What's the second area of wasted time?
This is a good one. It's the Shiny Widget. We call those technology. What ends up happening in the technology world is there's tools left, right, and center being offered to us. There's one that solves a problem here. There's a thing called 22 Social,
right.
As example. And the thing about technology is it's fantastic. I absolutely love technology, and I think most of your people, most of your listeners are fans of technology as well. That's why we're all listening on here. We like the Facebook venues. We like all the different things that are available to us. But technology should be something that enhances a process. And a lot of companies, when they don't have their processes written out, all tools look good. And I used to always look at it this way. When it comes to technology, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so what you're really looking at is every time something looks neat, you're finding a way to fit that in your business. The way it should be viewed, that would be very, very helpful for us as business owners, is we should be looking at it from what processes do we have in our business? And if you see a tool that can help either automate the process you're already doing, make it faster somehow, or facilitate somebody else to shorten the time it takes for them to get it done, then that tool should be considered. What we shouldn't be doing, though, is evaluating every tool that comes across our desk, because we don't know our processes, we don't know if it's a fit or not, and we're going to ask somebody to go check it out. And that's when things get to be problematic and time wasters, because there are so many tools. Every day, I guarantee, in your inbox, somebody is offering you a new tool. It's a plug-in, or it's a new widget to do this, or it's a new something to do that. And so those sorts of things can be add up to a lot of real time to just start busting up the amount of time in a day you have to do the revenue producing things. And they just really steal your time in a big way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. And I think I isolated the echo was with on my end because of that different microphone I'm using tonight. So the earbuds will solve that. So,
Okay.
yeah, it absolutely, technology is one of those things where there's always something new. And even when Facebook or Google comes out with an update, I know Google did a major update in June 19th. There's a whole swath of changes to the Hangouts on Air and the technologies that we use every day. And obviously, you got to go in, and they don't always publish any documentation themselves of what that is. So you kind of have to jump in there and learn it and figure it out, and then talk to other people and talk to your colleagues and everyone else who's using it, and then make it work. So what we do is we try to document it as well as we can, but then there's a change, and that creates more time.
Well, and that's the other thing. A lot of times when I do hear about owners who do documentation, they'll use Google Docs, they'll have maybe something on a network drive, they'll have Word docs, they'll have maybe even a binder for that matter, and they'll have some things documented, but it's not dynamic. It's a static book. Well, if we look at technology today, just technology, forget all the processes right now, but let's just look at technology today. A lot of us have WordPress sites. Every time they come up with an update, how many of your plugins break? How many of the things that we had working when we went to bed are no longer working when we wake up? And now we have to go through and start troubleshooting because somebody else took a technology that we have a lot of dependencies on, and we use that stuff. So when we're adding technology, you really want to ask yourself in a very serious manner, is this technology going to help me even in the event that it's going to cost me time to fix when I know some of the updates that this technology is dependent on has a change? For example, we're using this great platform right now. When Facebook makes an update, there may be some scrambling on behalf of all of the vendors who have apps inside of Facebook to make sure that they're still operating correctly and things like that. So it's always nice to get a heads up, but James, you pointed out a great example. A lot of these changes just happen, and we just find out when somebody calls our customer service and says, hey, your stuff doesn't work anymore, or I can't access this. So again, technology can be a big time waste if you understand the implication of it and the really the big picture of technology, and that is that it's dependent on a lot of other things.
Yeah, absolutely, and a lot of variables sometimes outside of our control, and I even when something breaks, or it's something that can create a complete diversion in your day. So,
right.
But if you have something that breaks and you have a process in place to follow when that happens, then you can eliminate that. We had that issue at Kinko's where a machine would break, and we would call a service tech and go through a process, and we could expedite it and do all these different things, and we could try some things on our own. We knew the steps to take to try to fix it. So the same thing would apply to any technology really in your business, right?
Absolutely. In fact, that's one of the keys is that if you maintain a dynamic let's call it a dynamic process within your business such that your employees are empowered to make changes when things are needed and stuff of that nature, you're going to find that they're going to discover a lot of the things that need to be found, and they can make that update for you. You can go in and test it when you need to, but it's going to take care of that for you. So that's really important when you think about it from the big picture perspective. Let's let the people who are right in the trenches doing it, give them the power to update it. So that's definitely one thing that I would tell anybody is you don't always have to be the one to get it documented, but you might want to be the one to review it.
Awesome, great info. So what's the third one, Frank? You got me on pins and needles here.
You got you. All right. So the third one here, the third time waster, is procedures, and really it's instructions. How many times have you thought to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm just going to do this myself. It's going to be a lot faster. Challenge when we say that and when we operate like that is that we are no longer entrusting this other person to do something for us, and we've eliminated delegation, which means they're probably idle while we distract ourselves from potentially a revenue generating activity, and we jump in to go help them solve something. Because we jump back into this practitioner mode and not business owner mode, and we're like, I just want to get this done. And so because we know how to do it, we're going to go ahead and jump in and get it done. If we would take the time to document those sorts of things out right away, the first time you do it, just document it down. You would find over and over again, you will save a ton of time down the road. Especially, how many times have you gone, just even with your own self, and this, I'm speaking to the solopreneur now. You're in business for yourself, maybe you've got a few contractors that help you out from time to time, but for the most part, you're it. And when something has to get done, you're kind of it. How many times have you scratched your head and gone, oh, I can't remember how I did that. How did I do that? I did this one thing like a couple weeks ago. I just did this, and you can't remember. That happens a lot to a lot of us. And so, one of the little things that I like to, encourage people to do is when you're doing something new for the first time, keep a notepad handy, even if it's a digital notepad, like a notepad or text wrangler or some sort of a little app. And as you're going through something, just write down what's doing, because you can always change it if you realize that what you're doing isn't working. But it only takes a few seconds to make that additional input to this notepad to sort of document what you're doing. And I'll give you an example of that here in a few minutes, but of what I do when I'm going through something new, and maybe that a lot of this will make more sense, but it doesn't take that much time. But I promise you, it will save you so much time in the end.
So, it was the notepad. Is that the one simple technique that will improve workflow immediately? Is that what you're going to share?
It's actually the technique is to document every time you're doing something new. Document it. And the other thing is when you're getting ready to bring on a new employee and you're still having somebody do a task, is to go take a look at it. Go literally take a look at the documentation that you have in place while you're still doing it, and you know that you've got an employee coming on board soon, or you've got somebody going on vacation, you want somebody else to witness it. Make sure they're going back to the documentation, because here's what's going to happen. If an employee goes on vacation and they're a key contributor to, maybe they're the ones that send out your marketing emails every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And rather than have them all queued up, you wait because you do current events. So somebody has to go in and fill in the current event so that you fire off a very current email. Maybe it's a newsletter or whatever. If you have to have a third person come in, so it's not you, it's not the person that's going on vacation, but it's someone else coming in, the last thing you need to do is have them with old, outdated information. Because all they're going to do is try to find you or find the person on vacation, or the thing may never go out. Or it could take many, many extra hours of effort just to do something that was so simple. And while it may have taken you many hours to learn it the first time, if it's well documented, the next person won't have to take that long. And at the end of the day, it's your business, right? When you're paying these people, whether it takes them 10 minutes, 2 hours, or 10 hours, you're still paying them. So if you want to save some really big dollars when it comes down to operational, let's face it, your revenue is your revenue. But your expenses you can control, because you can make people as productive as possible so that more things can get done. And if you got part-time people, it's less of an effort required to get the same amount of work done if things are well documented. And mistakes, I just can't tell you the number of mistakes that it would save. If you eliminated just one mistake a day, imagine what that would do to your customer service impact. Because these mistakes translate out into customer problems at some point. They start trickling down to that effect. So that's why I'm really big on operations, and I know, hey, look, this is not a sexy topic. I get it, right? I understand it. I get it. This is not the flashbang marketing. This isn't those cool doodle videos and all that kind of stuff. I get that. But this puts real money in your bank account. And the money that's there, you get to keep. Because at the end of the day, we're in business for two things: time freedom and money freedom, or financial freedom, if you want to call it that. And regardless of the amount of revenue you get, it's not what you generate on the top line, it's what you keep on the bottom line. And that's what I come in and help people do, and that's what I've been working with since my days at IBM and working with these small businesses, because I think it's really important that people take a look at that and don't just assume that because you're making money that you're optimal. Because maybe there's a lot more money for you to make. Why do you put a lot of effort behind all that marketing to try to make more revenue, more revenue, more revenue? Sometimes you need to look at your operations and see, where can I cut the fat? Where can I streamline? Where can I get more efficient? Where can I improve that? So that's an opportunity for there.
So I'm hearing kind of a theme here, Frank, and so documentation, right? So documentation around the areas of, we said customer service is really a people thing, right? And make sure your people are aligned. Technology, so documentation to manage your technology in your business. And then what processes, technology or documentation around your processes. So making sure that once you have, and it sounds to me very similar, the Michael Gerber kind of approach, the E-Myth, and the franchise business model. Is that kind of a similar idea to what you're describing here?
Well, this hammer thinks you look like a nail now. So yes. No, in the big picture, what you're really looking at is an overall business system. And when you finally get everything nailed down, all the different procedures, all the different things that you do in your company, which that operational sheet gives you your core to helps you understand the core things that you're doing. That is going to be the makeup of your business system. It's going to be what you, if you were to replicate yourself and open up a new branch in another city, or have somebody else open up a new branch, this would be the set of instructions you would give them to operate it. Because, hey, wouldn't it be great to one day not have to show up at work one day, but show up, say, a month later after a great vacation, and you have more money in the bank than when you left?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of companies can't do that because they are the practitioner and they haven't separated themselves into that business ownership yet. They're still the guy that has to be there, or the gal that has to be there to make decisions and do stuff, because there are holes or gaps. There are things they know that they know that other people don't. So let's start documenting that. That's
All right,
pretty.
well, yeah. So we've got these, we've got these downloads, these worksheets, right? So maybe we should jump into that. We're at about half past the hour, and
great.
So is that where we're going next with this, to show kind of how to use these worksheets to implement some of these ideas or documentation for your business?
Yes, that's absolutely right. And I'm bringing up my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I sure can.
Okay. This first one here is a strategy worksheet right here. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. And hopefully that's a nice clear view. I don't know what the different sizes of people are viewing on our video is, so I'll try to make this as big as I can. And in the strategy thing, I give you 25 questions. The majority of them are pertinent to a business and things that you have going, but it's really right in the beginning when we jump right into this alignment of strategy and then into your operations. So one of the things you'll notice, I have up here an example. So you've got your strategy prep worksheet. And we've got your mission and your goals and things like that. But a lot of people gloss over this. They just assume that because I have maybe I make, let's say in this example here, maybe I make plugins for WordPress. Okay, so I identify problems and I've got a good development team, and so I make plugins for that. So they might say, they might not even have a mission in many cases, or their business goals might be to do 3 launches this year and, have 2 new plugins, and in this case, generate $600K in revenues. Which, by the way, if you're a solopreneur and you've got a team like that, that's a nice hefty amount of income. And it definitely can be. So in this case, you're obviously going to list out the products that you have and any services if you offer that. But where the rubber starts meeting the road, is when you start looking at your strengths and your weaknesses. So in this case, this is actually a company that I stripped it down and I took away some of the stuff. This was a company I worked with. And one of the things that they had going for them was they have a really strong development team. Now, as part of their development team, they also had the ability to respond to a market problem pretty quickly. So they created several plugins, and they would take those through the affiliate marketing. So they have a sales channel to sell through, which is through affiliate relations. They had a quick understanding of a market issue that WordPress could help solve, and they had a strong development team to get them built. So that's what they would do, and get these things out. The next thing is they realized there was another issue with their company on the weakness side that said we got small price points. So they don't have high dollar items that they sell. Nothing's over $100, for the most part. They have fast-changing WordPress versions. They get a lot of broken code. This is something we talked about earlier, right? And they've got, and because they are a launch-type business, they're more like an event-driven business. They get sporadic cash flow. So they'll get a series of cash flows coming in, and then they've got to deal with the repercussion of having very few sales after the fact. So that's always been a challenge for them. So when I asked them what market threats exist right now that are potentially going to impact their business, one of the big things that jumped out at them was that email marketing gets harder. For a lot of your people here on this call today, James, I suspect that they're running into issues similar to that they're going to have a tougher time getting opens, and it's not necessarily always because of what they're offering and because of who would like to open it. Sometimes it's just the way the algorithms work in the technology. Some of these email programs are the things that are causing the block. Does that make sense? Do I still have you, James? James? I will keep going. I see your screen in the lower third going. I'm going to keep going because I think you're still on, but it looks like you might be muted. All right. So, and as we go through here, we talked about, what are some opportunities that they might have, right? So they thought that maybe they could break into the development of other efforts, like maybe the mobile market. So that was an option for them. So they started looking at stuff like that. So they want to be able to stabilize their revenue. And they have a pretty good list of their own now because they've got a lot of buyers from these various things that they've been working on. So now they're at a point where they thought maybe we can monetize this list. It's not something that they engaged in before, even though they had a lot of affiliates that would do a lot of their stuff. They were not engaged themselves actively in marketing to that group of people. So now that's another area that they're looking at. So as we move through here, a few things that I want to point out is when you get down near the bottom, you want to find out, is there any issues? We look at it this way. Is there something going on right now with your customers? What are they saying about you? And in their case, they said that their customers love them because every time they bring out a plugin, it does what they say. They'll claim it does this, and this is what the plugin does. They get people that do that. Where it runs into problems, and what they've stated over and over again, is when the WordPress updates occur and then their plugins break. Because something will happen with the WordPress platform. They'll make some changes. I think they're on 3.91 right now. They'll make those changes, and we get issues from there. So those are things. And then we look at how many employees they have. And why we're looking at all of this stuff is because when you bring it all home, when you pull this all together and you start looking at, do you fulfill your own physical products? Do you provide your own customer service? Do you have in-house technology? How do you guys make decisions in your company? If you could change your business right now with a magic wand, what would you do? The reason for all these types of questions, it's getting back to operations. Because depending on how you answer these is going to depend on how big of an operation you need to create. If you have all your own in-house technology and you develop apps and you have web presence, you may have multiple resources there that you have to deal with. The flip side of that is if I've got my own customer service and I do that in-house, I've got to deal with that too. So that becomes an issue as well. And then if I have ultimately, when I'm looking at, so I've got technology, I've got customer service, if I have my own marketing team, my own sales team, and all that other stuff, that too is something I have to take into consideration. So this is what the strategy prep sheet would look like, all filled out with the different information that they have. And so while that's all great, fine and dandy, we have to bring that home to the operations sheet. So here's the second sheet that we were talking about on here. James, I don't know if we got you back. I can see your video back, but I don't know if I got you back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. I've the whole issue tonight with the echo and everything. It's really my mic. It's a mic issue. So I didn't have my primary headset, so I've been using a stopgap. But I think I got it fixed now. So sorry about that.
All right. No problem. Okay. And so are you seeing my screen okay?
Yeah, it looks great. It looks great from the Facebook page as well. We're broadcasting, so okay. Yeah, you're on a roll here. Keep going.
All right,
great.
So let's hit the operations worksheet now. Now here, this is where what I look at here, and what you would want to look at in your business is your core processes. These are the things that you're going to do. So for example, in marketing, right? These would be JV partners, online, print, radio, TV. How do you market, right? And so the questions here are designed to help you pull that out. So one of the things that I'll ask everybody all the time is in marketing, what are all the channels that you market at? So in this case, they do 100% of their marketing on their website via sales funnel processes, paid traffic, JV endorsed traffic, etc. So basically, they use online sales funnels. Okay, so this is the way they sell, and a lot of times, in fact, almost all the time, it's done through a launch process. Okay, then I said, well, what are the processes that you have for each channel? So in this case, they use video sales letters. That is their most dominant way that they sell the plugins that they have. They do little mini demos and all this kind of stuff. But what they do, the way they wrote this out, is they'll create a PPC and Facebook ads. They create landing pages with high-level content as a gift, not too dissimilar from how James invited you. That we wanted to make sure that we were giving you something of value so that you can take something away from here. Then there is create an offer for extended version of the content or the opt-in. So when you ask somebody to opt in their world, they said, great, we're going to ask for an opt-in. Let's give them something of value so that they'll give us a real email address, because that's always important. And then Their offers range from 27 to 97. Remember, one of their weaknesses that they mentioned is that they have very low price point stuff. So they don't sell these $1,000 and $5,000 and $10,000 and $25,000 things where they can make very large sums of money to do that. So it's very low-end ticket items, which means they need a lot of customers, which could also lead to a lot of customer service, right? So this is where I'm going with this. This is where you should be going with it. You need to start thinking about this, because if you're going to sell 10,000 of these $27 things, that's great. That's 270,000, right? I actually have to sell 20,000 if that's all I sold, and I want to hit my 600K revenue, right? So I need a little over 20,000 new customers. What might that do to your customer service, right? So that's the kind of thing we want to think about. So when we look at these procedures, as you start answering this for yourself, you're looking for what the impact of that is when you do these things. So and then lastly, all their offers have a minimum of 2 upsells with a minimum value of $197 for the funnel, and then it goes as high as $497. So that's what they do. Next one is order taking. This one's huge. When we say list how you sell your products, included all. So they sell online via like a web form to a shopping cart. That's what they're doing. So their order taking is VSL with a buy now button, right? So I said, well, explain how you do that. So they create a product in premium web cart. They format forms to reflect the proper look and feel. They create upsell configuration in PWC. They add buy now buttons to the VSL. They add integrations. Now, before I take that any further, you can go through each and every one of these, obviously. I mean, this is not rocket science when you go through here. Here's what I want you to look at, though. When they were explaining these out, this was a great exercise when they gave me this as the first time. Because when they looked at their online order processing, I said, great. So if I hired someone tomorrow to come in and help you with your order taking process, could they do all of these things? Could they do all of this? And, you know, of course, the answer is, well, probably not. Not right away. They'd have to be trained. Great. Well, where is your procedure for creating a product in Premium Web Cart? Well, they go to the website to do that. They'll go to Premium Web Cart and there's help videos. I'm like, where do they get that information from? And so you can start asking yourself simple questions. How do I do that? And is even if I can do it because I've done it before, where would I send somebody to go for them to get it? And the next bigger question I want to know, that's even one level higher than that and one level deeper, if you will, is can I include that information right here so that I don't have to have them leave this page? They could stay here and do it. And I'm going to take you through an example of what I'm talking about. Okay? So then they've got to be able to do all these different things, and maybe they can and maybe they can't. But I don't know that from just this. This is all too high level. Because if I asked you, James, to come on to my team because you know a little bit about HTML and you know a little bit about email systems and you know a little bit about WordPress, to come in and do that for me, you're going to have a lot of questions for me if I just give you this set of instructions right here. You're going to have a lot of questions for me, and rightly so. So I would not be detailed enough. So this is the kind of stuff to kind of get you started. So when you start, looking at, from my order taking, from my fulfillment, how do I do that? And you can get into all of these from customer service. Do I do in-house or out? Do I have a formal set of policies and procedures? That would be the FAQs, right? How do we work with that? Formal sets of things might be we give refunds up to 30 days, and maybe you give refunds up to 100 days, or maybe you don't give refunds. Maybe you have a type of service where you just don't do that. But that's a policy, right? And so is it written somewhere so that the agent knows? And they have a way to go, right? So these are the types of things that you want to be able to come through and answer. The questions that are asked under each one of these will help you get clear on what it is you currently have, and then it kind of helps you decide if that's really what's best for your business. So if you don't feel like your customer service is all that stellar, like you could improve on it, but you want to sell 25,000 new customers into your business, how might that impact you? Do you think you might want to spend a little time on your customer service processes to get those down really good so when 25,000 people come in, you can handle them with what you would consider to be world-class excellence? Because that's ultimately what you want. Because what's the alternative? Refunds and chargebacks, and nobody likes that, right?
Oh, and waste too. It's like if you with refunds and chargebacks, and in the industry I was from, if we get a job wrong, there's a tremendous amount of waste and supply costs, and then lost labor. There's a lot of factors that impact the profitability. So for sure.
Bingo. So this is how I ask these guys to fill out the form when I give them a questionnaire like this, and when I give them that ops one. This is a really big one, and before I engage anybody in like these large launches that I would do, they had to fill this out completely, because I want to know if I'm going to do a large launch event for somebody, and the expectation is 10,000 customers in 2 weeks, 10,000 new buyers in 2 weeks coming through that system. I need to make sure their operations can handle it. Because not a lot of people ask those questions on the front end. They just see the big dollar signs that might be associated with that, but they don't realize that there's a whole lot of servicing that has to take place, and there's a lot of moving parts that need to get accounted for, and there's a lot of accountability on the part. I guess with great with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to do something in a big, powerful way, you got a big responsibility for this, especially if you want to keep some of those dollars, right? Fair enough. So now, James, I was telling you about how I keep a notepad open on my desk when I'm doing something. Right. I did one just recently. I did something called Optin Links, and it may be a popular thing for a lot of people now because it got a lot of buzz. I think they sold 20,000 units of this thing, and it was a technology. I use landing pages, so I thought Optin Links would be really great because it could streamline a process that exists for me. Notice what I said. Because it will help me to streamline something I'm already doing.
Right.
So that's why I'm looking at it. If it was something that was brand new and I don't do landing pages going, wow, I'll do opt-in pages. You know, I like this Optin Links tool, and then I can do opt-in pages. I don't do any of that right now. I should do it all. You know, if it doesn't fit a process you currently have, you know, by all means, now is probably not the time to go investigate it. You know, unless that's part of your goal and, you know, so one of your future plans. So when I look at it from my perspective, I will take the time to sit down and write down what I do. So I just keep one of these open while I'm working in it. Well, I have a tool called Doc and Do, and in this tool I do all my documentation. So it's what I use to document the things that I have. It's the procedural thing. So in this case, I'm going to show you what it would be like, James, if you and I were to use Optin Links and do this, and I'm going to show you what's typical and what tends to happen in most entrepreneurs' business. So if I came to you, James, and I said, hey, I really would like you to do, put it in this Optin Links here, you know, you're my new tech guy, you're going to help me out with this, put my Optin Links on 2 of the landing pages that we currently have. Let's test it out. We're going to split test them out. Okay, so that's my instruction to you. What typically would happen is you'd come in here and you'd come down to this thing called Optin Links. Okay, great. All right, well, how does Optin Links work? Well, I sent you over to their members area, and they have a couple of trainings. One of them is update the mailer integration, because Optin Links works with a third-party mail application like MailChimp or Aweber or iContact, something like that. And then there's going to be create a secure content page. There's going to be create Optin Links campaign. They're going to be apply the landing page and test the entire process. So there's these 5 things. So, okay, great. So what might that look like? So when I come here and I click on the first one, well, if I'm going to update this, it says log into your WordPress site, go to the mailer integration under the Optin Links menu item on the left. So somewhere in here will be the WordPress, and there will be this little link down here, and it'll say Optin Links menu, and I will go to the mailer integration. And then I'm going to click on refresh stats, and it's going to produce a list of all of the items in there. Well, the first question James is going to have for me, and I know you're already going to have this, is what list? What list am I supposed to link up to what? Right? Because initially when I had the conversation, my instruction was, let's get this thing integrated in here. Okay, James, you're a tech guy, go get that done. Okay, awesome. So now you have to take a break. You're going to come back. You're going to ask me, hey, which mail system do we want in there? Because there's nothing linked up to this Optin Links. It's new for us. So I might tell you, hey, it's MailChimp. Let's use our MailChimp list. Okay, great. Okay. And I may think to ask you which list in MailChimp. I may not. So that may be a second interruption to get something done. So I've got to think about that, right? So notice there's a note in here. It says, if you've not set up your mailer, select the Set Up Mailer Integration button, and it will give you a tutorial on how to do that. So awesome. So I have this one set. So now I'm ready to go. Great. Step 1, done, right? In theory. Step 2, right? Create the secure content page. So what offer? Well, now I got to determine the content for the offer from the opt-in. So if you're going to land on a page, for what? What got you here? What did I ask you to do that got you here in the first place? And then I have to do a preparation for a page layout to decide well, what do you want this thing to look like? You know, who is going to put the design on this? Because isn't that usually a marketer that does that, not necessarily your web guy? And then there's this add the content to the page. Okay, well, I can do that, and then I can insert my link. So, okay, good, I can do all that. Great. So this is not that difficult. The point is I can go through one after another. And as I go through and I create this, when I get to the testing of the process, I'm going to run into a problem. And here's the problem. I've got a few things that I don't know about. So one is, how do I create the email list? Right? James, you have not been exposed to that. I brought you in. You may not know how to do that. So if I don't include this level of detail in what I'm doing, like adding in like, oh, in order to use Optin Links, well, I have to have an email list, right? Stands to reason, right? And at some point I have to determine a list. Is it a new list or is it an existing one? Most likely if it's a new test, I've got a new list, right? So I'll go ahead and give it its name and do all that stuff. So now, okay, so I've solved that. Now I can come in and look at my mailer integration, and now I have something legitimate. So as long as I did this first step that's sort of grayed out here because it was hidden, then I can do the second one. Well, I need to create that landing page, right? Because if I'm going to create a secured content page, which Optin Links says, make this page your secured page. Well, what page? Well, I need to create one, right? So I need to determine if one exists. I need to clone and create a new one, add a template, etc. So the point is, guys, you can get as detailed as you want in all of your stuff. What you're looking for is the unconscious competent part of your practitioner mind, and what are you not saying that's going to cause other people to not get done the things that you want them to get done the way you want them to get done. Because how many times you said it's just easier if I do it myself? That's because there are things you know that you didn't document that they don't know how to do, or they're not aware that they even need to know how to do this. And
hey, Frank?
Yes.
I just got to bring up that was a huge eye-opener for me, was that phrase, or those two words, unconscious competence. And it's those things that we know how to do, and we assume that other people know how to do them too, but then when they don't do them, then we just figure, oh, well, I'll just do it myself because they can't do it right, kind of thing, right? So
absolutely.
In the world that I live in, with I'm a part of a mastermind. I lead a mastermind with two other trainers, and in that mastermind, we find ourselves sometimes speaking at a very high level and working on a very high level. And in some respects, that's a good thing, because it forces people to kind of bring themselves up and learn what it is we're talking about. But sometimes we kind of assume people know what we know, and we forget. And so, and we have to go back and kind of and make sure we're clear. So, but what you're saying, though, is when we take that competence that we have, right, and then we document it and train it, then we're basically spreading it around to where everyone gets that same level and has the ability to perform those tasks. Or maybe you have specific people on your team that can handle those tasks, because some people are better at some things than others, right? You hire people based on skill and talent, and you put them in the right position.
Yes, absolutely, and that's really what it boils down to, James. I mean, at the end of the day, getting your SOPs together and doing all that stuff, like I said when we, a little while ago, it's not sexy, it's not the pretty things, it's not the fun things all the time. But I'll tell you this, it has usually one of the largest impacts to your bottom line in what you can do. And when you take the time to start documenting, you're going to become aware of the things that you didn't even know you knew, which we call the unconscious competence. You're not consciously thinking about these things because it's second nature to you. You just know to do it. And you assume this next guy knows to do it as well. And they don't. In many cases, they don't, because it's not their paradigm. They've never done that before, so it's completely new for them. And that's why that, like when we talked about, what's the one thing you can do? That's literally every time you're doing something either new, or you're getting ready to bring someone on new and you're doing something that someone else is going to do soon, look at how you have it documented, or take the time to document it. It doesn't take long. And here's the best part. If you already have employees, make them do it too. And oh, by the way, you got contractors, make them do it too. Put it in the contract. When you do something for me, write down what you did. I want a record of it. Because, hey, once they go away, you may need to change it. You don't want to have to call somebody every time you want to change something.
Absolutely. Well, Frank, I really appreciate you taking the time out tonight. We're kind of heading up to the top of the hour.
Okay.
I know that you're working on some new projects here, and your schedule's booked out pretty far out. But if I understand you correctly, you're kind of opening up a few slots on a kind of complimentary level for the right business, right? Is that do I understand that correctly? So you have a few slots because you're working on with some new tools and processes.
Right.
And you're looking for the right type of business to work with on that.
That's absolutely right. I have a couple of specifics in mind of some businesses that I would like to spend about 30 minutes. I'll give them 30 minutes of my time just assessing it. And there's a questionnaire that if they fill that out and they have the right match for what I'm looking for, I will give them 30 minutes of my time to help them out. And if for whatever reason they're not, I will make sure that I give them some gifts anyways to do that, just for filling that out. And I say from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate if you would do that. And at the same time, I really do have a limited schedule to do that because I've been focused pretty heavily on the Doc and Do platform that we've been working on, and that's been helping us get our case study, if you will, and proof of concept and a few other things that we've been doing to get that rocking and rolling. So that's why I mentioned that. And if somebody's out there and available to do that, we'd appreciate them to do that, and I'll give them 30 minutes of my time in exchange for that.
That's huge because I know that doesn't come cheap if you're paying for it. So, and I've had a chance, guys, to look at this Doc and Do platform that Frank's talking about. I actually signed up for a free account. You can get a free account for that, right? Right, Frank?
Absolutely, yeah. We have a freemium version of that, and it's not a free trial. It's literally there's a free version of it that people can play around with, and they're more than welcome to do that.
Well, I'm amazed at all the things you can do with the free version. I mean, it's pretty robust, and you can do a lot of different pieces to organizing and documenting different processes. So, for sure, that's awesome. So, what do people have to do in order to apply for one of these time slots with you?
James, if you would give them the link in the, I believe there's a link for it with a form. If you can give them that in the chat. Is it the chat or the online?
Yeah.
How do you do that with your tech?
I can do that, but I lost my when I went down. I lost that, but I can. Yeah, I'll pull it up and drop the link in. Hold on. Yeah. So, guys, we're gonna drop the link in the chat box here, and that is that's to apply. There's just how many questions are there, Frank?
I believe there are about 7. Well, there's 7 to 9 questions, I believe, is what there's on there. We have some basic information and a few business questions. This is basically what it boils down to. Very simple, basic stuff. Obviously, you need to know your name, who you are, and what you do. And then we ask you a couple of business questions about what you do and where you are with your business currently. And what that's going to do is help us understand if you're the business that we're looking for right now, to be able to spend about, like I said, I'll give you 30 minutes of my time. We'll look at it from your operational excellence perspective on where you're at and where you need help and that sort of a thing. But then most importantly, I want to find out, is that a good fit for what we're trying to do in from our case study perspective. Great.
Okay, guys, I just dropped the link into the page. Let me try and.
And that's what we love about live technology.
Yeah. And I believe now you're going to add this also to that worksheet page there too, aren't you?
Yes. We'll go ahead and we'll get that added in. I'll get that over to my tech person. We'll have that done ASAP to do that.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well, Frank, once again, thanks so much for your time tonight. Let me just, we were going to take questions, but we didn't have a whole lot of questions coming in. Just make sure we don't have any. Yeah, Melody's talking about the unconscious incompetence, the hammer and nail. So you're right on about managing the gaps. Big challenge. Yeah, that's a huge one right there, managing the gaps.
Yes.
Melody says she takes so many notes, how-tos, and That is the reason why, as a solopreneur, you have to know or remember so much more than if you have a team and divide up the training and expertise. I totally rely on these notes where I can search for the term, and technique is right there. You know, that's also something that we didn't really mention, Frank, in terms of, the solopreneur, and that is, if you're working with VAs, virtual assistants, or you have any type of an outsourcing team, you really have to train them as well. So you have to document the processes that you want them, as a subcontractor, that you want them to perform for you, whether it's video editing or managing a group or whatever it might be. But you have to be extremely clear and step-by-step processes for those VAs, and then so that they can go in, and it usually takes a while before they get really comfortable with it. But if you don't have that, and you just kind of throw some expectations at a VA, it's a recipe for disaster.
Well, and James, there's two types of vendors that enter our lives as business owners. One of them is a done-for-you where they bring the skills and the talent to the table. Like you hire an SEO service firm or something like that. They'll come in and do all the work for you, right? From soup to nuts, they'll do everything for you. And then there's the VA type, or the contractor, the 1099 person. That's a person that brings a skill to the table, but they work within your paradigm, your expertise. They will do the things that you have. And if you don't have good documentation on what you want these people to do, you will still pay them regardless of how productive they are, because they're a time and material person, or basically they get paid by the hour in many cases for that. Very difficult to find a VA that'll work on a per project basis and stuff like that. Right.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, it's pretty much impossible to do that. So, well,
right.
And Frank, any parting words here before we leave? I know we want people to, if you want to spend some time on your business with Frank, click on the link down there below and apply. And if you're the right fit to get some time to look at your business, then Frank will be contacting you, or his assistant will be contacting you to set up a time for that. And then any other, and then whether they're selected or not, you have some additional bonuses or some parting gifts for them, for anyone that applies, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I've got several things here that I want to make sure that, I think every business owner can have it on hand. If I've got an online blueprint that sort of talks through the planning, design, build, and implementation and service phases of any business. I've got a project review worksheet, because let's face it, businesses are basically a collection of projects that we take on in many cases. And then I've got an ebook called Launch Now or Die that was written back in 2009 when the launch craze was hitting the internet, and the principles and lessons that are in there are definitely valuable if you ever want to consider doing one of those yourself with the business that you have. You did mention about is there any parting words, and I often hear from a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm just too busy. I don't have time to do the documentation. If you're too busy to take the time out to do any documentation, then you're too busy not to document, because you can't keep repeating yourself over and over and over again. You don't have the time for that. You have to take it, and you have to take control of that as sooner rather than later, because every time you don't do it, you're going to have the chance to do it again when you're doing the work again for somebody else.
Yeah.
That'll keep popping up over and over and over again. We see it all the time. So then you won't have to say, gosh, I'll just do it myself. Now you'll be able to hand it over with a fairly complete set of documentation. They can do it. When they have holes or gaps, as pointed out, then we fill them, because it's a dynamic thing, right?
Yeah, always change. Having that easily updated too when you have a change to your business is important. So, hey Frank, once again, thanks so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate you taking the time, and just some really valuable information here for really any business owner in terms of kind of getting the reins. But it does require that initial investment of actually sitting down and taking a step back from your business and going through these questions. And so use the worksheets. Make sure you fill them out and look at your business from a strategic level. And look at where you can find those gaps, isolate those gaps, and maybe document the procedures that you need to implement in your own business to improve those efficiencies. So with that, we're going to sign off here tonight. Definitely leave us comments below, and Frank will be answering questions down there over the next couple days, I think. If as he has time to jump in there. And then stay tuned to your email box. I will be sending out information about our next event and our next guest, which is another really awesome guest I'm really excited to have on. So I don't have the date confirmed for that yet. So when I do, you'll get that information both here on the fan page as well as in the email. So with that, everyone have an awesome, awesome night. Glad you made it here, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.